This was the big Ford, as I called it when I was a little kid. It started out as an 800 series Select-A-Speed that Dad pulled out of a junkyard in the mid-'80s after the partnership split up with Richard. And Richard and my maternal grandfather, Richard was his brother, my maternal grandfather and Richard were trying to rebuild the Select-A-Speed while Dad was gone one day, and they forgot to put a washer in it, so of course the whole thing didn't work, which Select-A-Speeds are kind of known for that anyway. And rather than try to fix that one more time, Dad found the guts from a 5-speed and stuck it in there. It was diesel at the time. So now we went from diesel Select-A-Speed to diesel 5-speed. Keep an eye on the changes, they're going to keep coming. It had a one-armed loader with a hydraulic bucket at that time, which Dad hated and I always liked. But the problem is the one-armed bucket put a twist on the engine. It cracked the engine block. Now that's a problem. Now to fix that, Dad got these arms from, I'm not sure if they were off a 900 series or 1000 or what they were, but anyway, he cut them down a couple inches and put them in. And so that stiffened a while again. Now, we had trouble with the tractor. It would stall out the engine. I mean, we could stall out the engine at 2,400 RPM lifting the loader bucket, which, let's face it, that is not something you're supposed to be. And he even had the injection pump rebuilt. And then we found out the fuel cap wasn't venting, and we changed it, and it ran perfectly for a few years. Always did have trouble with the power steering leaking like a sieve. Dad took it apart and rebuilt the seals a number of times. I suspect there are some cracks in the line. I remember plowing with this with a 3 bottom. We couldn't pull a 4 in our ground. We took the 4th bottom off. And I remember he tried using grease gun hoses on the power steering at one time, and that lasted about half an hour. They were cheaper than the steel lines. We got some kind of hydraulic line on there now that, well, they haven't blown, but it loses the fluid through other points. Then, after the turn of the millennium, we lost all the hydraulic power in it, and we got to checking, and it seems the gear had broken on the end of the camshaft. Well, we didn't like that at all. Oh yes, one problem we had with this thing over a period of time was we kept knocking clutches out of it, and Dad did not like changing the clutch in this thing. Who does? It seems there's a shim between the engine and the transmission, and I forget which one's thicker and which one's thinner, but between the Select-A-Speed and the 5-speed, it's a different thickness, and never the twain shall meet. So we got that fixed, and then the clutches behaved themselves. Anyway, going back to our broken camshaft, we took the engine apart to see what the problem was, and we found one of the piston skirts in the oil pan, and we knew that was a problem. I later discovered that was kind of a known fault on these tractors. Once things got some wear on, they got a little slop on there, and the skirts broke off. So we figured that engine wasn't going back in. He went to Streakers in Findlay. That's the local Ford dealership, and they are a very well-respected Ford dealership with a huge amount of spare parts and a lot of institutional knowledge. And they gave us a $3,000 parts estimate to fix that engine. Or, for I believe it was $1,100, they had a Ford industrial chipper motor with a Rockford clutch sitting on a frame with a radiator and a hood and everything. It was a fully operational power unit out of a chipper shredder. So we put that in, did some fiddling with the linkages to get it to work, and so then we got it working with that. Now, when my Uncle Richard retired from farming, Dad just had to get a hold of all the equipment that Richard had that he could get his hands on, which included this loader bucket, which was originally used on the 600 Ford. Been in the family for many, many years. It's been in the family for 50, 60 years at this point. And Dad decided he did not like the trip bucket on the loader. He wanted a hydraulic tip. And so he mounted that cylinder on there. But we got the geometry wrong, so it's kind of crap. And if I can find the parts, I'm going to put the trip back in because, well, it doesn't work. So now we went from diesel Select-A-Speed to gas 5-speed and a one-arm loader to the full cage. I do not like this full cage loader because you can't access the engine. We went from a fairly reliable, if cold-natured, diesel to a gas engine that will not hold its settings on the carburetor and always needs tinkering with, and it's all I can do to put fuel in it. So anyway, it hasn't run for a few years. I have to get the belt on that little alternator on there because you can't put a normal size alternator on there because we put those extra rails on the side. Now the tires on this thing, the tires that were on it went bad, so Dad went to Streakers. They show up a lot in our stories. And those were new tires that had come on some kind of machine that the new owner wanted turf tires on. So these new tires that were, I think they still had the mold marks on them. They were brand new, and so Dad got them for, I think, $200 a piece. I can still see a barcode on one of them. We haven't run them much. And the numbers are still written on the tread. They're beautiful tires. We've had them about 25 years now. So we've got them on it. And I'm told those spin-out rear wheels are highly desirable, although we have never used them and probably never will. Anyway, I may put some weights on it if I get it running. And people are like, that's not an 860, it's an 861. It's a Heinz 57. It's a diesel gas selective speed, 5-speed, 1000 series, 600, 800, God knows what the thing is. None of these things are stock. Don't take it seriously. And I think those levers were off a 1000 series. And they are nicer than the ones that came on the 860. Those are very nice hydraulic levers if you ever choose. I recommend them highly. Ergonomic. Just sit under your leg and you can reach down and pull them real easy. And we will get this thing running. So this is the number 1 out of 5 860 Fords on the farm. And he's been with us a long time. It's been with us for over 40 years now, I think. I'll get it running. Don't worry about it. I may put a Chicom carburetor on it. It can't possibly be worse than the one I got.